What's good? What's good? I am back. Yours truly, one and only Paul Pickett, host of the Paul Pickett Podcast, aka Triple P, aka the Common Sense Podcast, your source for music, sports, politics, world events, and much, much more. So we about to get into the first interview of the year, and this one is going to be fitting because it's the first fighter actually from my home state of North Carolina that I've interviewed, and he actually has the fastest knockout in combat sports history. They said it 2.9 seconds. I think it's more like 2.4, 2.5. I think they little wrong on that one. I think it was a little bit quicker. He did it at BKFC 69 in Atlanta, December 6, 2024 against Cole Farrell. Let's bring on the one and only Justin Watson.
How's
Justin,
it
what's
going,
good,
man?
man?
Not too much, man. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. I'm doing good today, man. We had a little power outage though for like 3 or 4 hours in damn near half the city. So
Oh,
people
well.
kind of, a little upset about that.
Yeah, but
So I want to start here. I was looking up, says you from China Grove, North Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, which had like a population of 4,500. So what was it like trying to make it as a fighter in a small town like that?
I actually live in Salisbury, which is a little bit bigger. My gym's in China Grove, which is like just a really small town. Um, but I actually came up in Tennessee, so there's
Oh,
a
okay.
pretty decent circuit in Tennessee for MMA regionally, professionally and as an amateur. So when I got to North Carolina, I already had all the connections and stuff in Tennessee. So um, that's where I got started at.
All right. So you began your career in amateur MMA, it says, if that's not mistaken. Like
Mm.
what got you into MMA in the first place?
I really started kickboxing, but MMA was always just a passion. I just starting out as a kid, I just always was getting in trouble, getting in fights, and um, so it was just always something that I had a desire to do. And once I had the opportunity to get into a gym, I jumped on it.
Now, you went from amateur MMA, had a brief stint in pro MMA. What was that experience like for you?
Not great, man. Didn't get any fights in my weight class. I had to fight up a couple times. So didn't go my way, but just I'm the type of guy that I don't say no to anything. I just if I get offered a fight, I'm down whoever it is. So I fought some tough dudes and learned a lot, and um, I think that all helped me grow to be where I'm at now. The mistakes have been made, and now we're hit our stride and to the top from here.
Now, why did you decide to get into bare knuckle and then enter into BKFC?
Just as I was getting older, my grappling has always been the my weak spot in MMA. That's where I end
Okay.
up, getting beat at. So taking that aspect out was intriguing. I would have enjoyed to do some kind of kickboxing, but bare knuckle was, I had the opportunity to take a fight, and at my age, getting older, it's just a lot easier only focusing on one thing as far as just throwing punches, opposed to, grappling, kicking, knees, elbows is so much more that goes into MMA. And, bare knuckle just being a new rising sport. It's a place where you can get in and make a big name for yourself pretty quick. And I saw that opportunity and wanted to go for it.
Now, how did you get that opportunity though specifically?
I just had a manager that had the connections. I was introduced to him through other fighters that I knew, and given recommendations, and he got me my first BKFC fight.
Now, did you have to go through any of the prospect series or do any kind of tryouts?
My first fight was on the Prospect Series.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And did it do you see any difference between the prospect series opposed to the actual fight card main events and stuff?
Yeah, I mean the quality of show, obviously they put a lot more into these numbered events. Crowds are a lot bigger. My first one, it was a fun show. It was a good experience on getting my feet wet and getting into the promotion. It wasn't a major stretch from the regional scene as far as the crowd and all that stuff goes. So it definitely let you get your toes wet before jumping in there in front of 15,000 people or whatever, um, and get you an idea of what you're up against.
So
Once you're
it
there for
seemed,
the big shows, it's time to go. Then.
so it seemed like they threw you to the wolves out the gate. I mean, you fought two guys with winning records out the gate.
Hmm.
Um, you had the BKFC prospects in Miami, okay, with I guess D'Amico LeBone, and I noticed you came out to Richmond from Richmond song by Oliver Anthony. What made you do that song?
Um, at the time, that was like right when that song was blowing up, and I was in love with it, and so yeah, it just felt like it fit. At that time, there was so much going on with in society and there's just a lot of negativity and stuff. So that was kind of just one of those songs to kind of bring you out of it. I feel like, and just say, if you keep showing up, good things are coming. Um, so that's kind of where I fell in that one at.
Yeah, I actually like that record too, and a lot of people were upset about it because they said it had a political statement and whatnot. But I just think it was just really good music, man, and you could just tell he was singing from the heart. So, what was your expectations going into that first fight, and do you feel like you were ready for that fight?
Yeah, I absolutely felt like I was ready for it. As far as physically, I was definitely prepared. I went through a lot going into it a couple weeks before. My cousin, my best friend, my entire life, grew up with him. Lived a couple miles from me my whole life. Went into a coma, and so for that camp, I was pretty much by his side in the hospital
Oh
for
man.
a week or so, and then he passed away a couple weeks before the fight. So there was some stuff going on there. So my weight cut was a little bit difficult. I had to cut a lot more weight than I anticipated once I got to Miami. So that definitely affected me. It was kind of bullshit. My opponent missed weight by 5 pounds, and
Oh man.
nobody told me that, and he refused to cut the weight. But I cut 7 pounds that morning and made weight. So I was super dehydrated. Obviously, I should have never gotten punched. So this is not an excuse for losing the fight. I expect to beat the best in the world on my worst day, and that night I didn't do that. But just didn't have the hydration in the brain, and that's what happens. I've never been dropped like that before, and I fully believe that it was just a lack of hydration from the weight cut, um, which pisses me off because had he been upfront about it and been like, "Hey, I'm not going to make weight," I wouldn't have either, and we would have been in there scrapping for a lot longer. Um, but it is what it is. I learned a big lesson there. The commission never told me anything. BKFC never told me anything. I got to ceremonial weigh-ins, 6 hours after the official weigh-ins, and I'm on stage waiting for him to walk up when I hear that he missed weight by 5 pounds. So that'll never happen again. I will be on top of these commissions and making sure that I know where my opponent's at from now on. So definitely, wasn't the outcome that I wanted, but I gained some knowledge there, and that's a mistake that won't happen again.
Now that was D'Amico that didn't make the weight.
Right. Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of that going on, right?
Yeah. A lot of the A side guys just feel like they can just come in whatever they want, and it doesn't matter. It's kind of wild, man. You would think there would be some kind of I want to say punishment, but like if you miss like D'Amico, I'm a big fan of D'Amico. I think the kid's got a lot of promise and whatever, but it was his third BKFC fight before he made weight. Like how you keep getting A side fights and you can't even make weight. But that's a very common theme here. You see a lot of these guys that are, you know, 5-0 fighting guys who are 1-4, but they can't even make weight. They're
That's
they're beating
crazy.
guys from a weight class below them, having them come up. That's all weak shit to me. I think if you're a fighter, you want to fight the best in the world, and I don't know why you're here if you're not. If you trying to fight bums, then you're in the wrong place, in my opinion. I got voted for a knockout of the year this year, and the guy who's winning it, his name is Hassan something, and this dude's got two knockouts this year. One of them was against a guy who never had an amateur fight, never had a pro fight, and Hassan knocked him out in the second round. And then the fight that he got nominated for knockout of the year was against a guy who's 1-3 professionally, who Hassan was a major favorite over. Like I knocked out a guy who was, 1,200 minus 1,200 favorite, and I did it in record time. That's not the same shit. Hassan, go fight somebody who moves the needle, and maybe you should be on that in that conversation. But
So
uh,
so he won the Mike and Mish the
yeah,
rankings that they put out. I
yeah,
felt like even Ruben's knockout was probably
oh yeah,
better than his.
absolutely. It was me or Ruben. That's
Yeah,
it. There
that's what
wasn't.
I was tough for me. I was like, damn, it's between Justin and Ruben, man.
Yeah,
But Ruben, I kind of had to go with Ruben because I mean he knocked his guy out clean cold.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Rubens was definitely a great knockout. I think like I said, I think that those are the only two that should have even been mentioned. I've heard a lot of people saying that my knockout wasn't as good because he wasn't out cold. But anybody who knows anything about fighting, watch that dude kiss the canvas. If you go
Yeah,
face
he
first
went
and you
face
don't put your
first.
hands
Yeah,
down, yeah, if you don't put your hands down, you're asleep. That like you literally cannot possibly fall face forward and not catch yourself. You can't do it intentionally. You can't
yeah.
make yourself do that. You only do it if you're asleep. He landed on his face and then stayed there for 2 seconds. He
And
was
his
on his
body
face for
rolled
longer than he
over.
was
His
on his
body
feet.
just rolled over. Like,
Yeah, he was stuck for a second. Like he was out. That was as clean as it gets. But when you get hit again, a lot of times you wake up. So his face smacking off the mat. I mean, you heard that shit from the back of the arena. You could hear his face hitting the canvas. So that woke him back up. So anyway, yeah, I mean that and Ruben did it against a legitimate fighter too. It's not like that's the difference. Ruben fights real dudes,
yeah.
and that's something that's lacking in this industry. I feel like.
Now, what did you learn going in from the first fight to the second? The second one was with Michael Larimore. What
Mhm.
was the biggest thing you think you learned from the first fight to the second fight?
Um, I think the biggest thing was probably just the weight management. Just getting the weight cut right and everything. I feel like the Larimore fight would have been a great fight. I feel like it was a short fight. It only lasted a little over a minute, but I think it was going well. I dislocated my collarbone about 8 seconds
Okay.
into the fight. So I'm throwing right hands and it feels like I'm in a dream, like I can't touch him. I landed one and he kind of stumbled backwards a little bit, and then I started spamming him, threw like three or four, but it just like felt like I couldn't throw a punch. So I took a knee just to try to figure out what was going on. And I stood back. I mean, I listened to the count. The referee got to 6, 7. I stood up and he waved it off. Didn't give me a chance. So kind of took that away from me. That was kind of bullshit. But um, I think my biggest lesson that I've learned in BKFC was from that. Like I've never been in a position where you take a knee and try to recover or figure out what's going on or adjust the game plan. Now I know if that has to happen again, you touch the ground, you come right back up and wait for the referee to start the fight. I thought we'll wait for the 8 count, stand back up, we'll take our time. Obviously wasn't hurt from a punch or anything like that. I just had an issue with the arm, so. But now if there's ever a situation where I need to reset, I know just to touch and get right back up. And so that's the biggest lesson that I think I've learned so far in BKFC was that one.
How much does your game plan change from fighter to fighter?
Not a ton in BKFC. I mean, like I say, you just focus on one aspect. It's just throwing
Yeah.
punches and trying not to catch them. So, for me, I think one of my biggest strong suits. I'm not going to be the fastest guy in the division, but I'm going to be one of the hardest hitting guys in the division, bar none. Like I said, the knockout that you just saw was at 145 pounds. I'm a 135 pounder. I took that fight. I was 140 pounds when I accepted that fight.
Okay.
So that was going up in weight and still put that dude to sleep that fast. So you imagine at 135. I haven't even gotten to fight at 135 yet. D'Amico obviously missed weight by 5 pounds, so that fight had to get moved up. My next fight that was against Larimore, I was supposed to fight somebody else at 135, and on Tuesday of fight week, he pulled out. So I landed in Florida on Wednesday, not knowing if I had an opponent or not. And then Larimore was supposed to fight on an MMA card the same weekend, and also had an opponent pull out the same time. So it just worked out that they were able to get him there. But that fight, also had to be moved up. I was 138 pounds when I got to Florida, and got moved up to 145. So I mean, Larimore not a big guy. It's not like it was a big disadvantage or anything, but um, this fight was also at 145. So I'm looking forward to getting down to 135 and really showing these guys um, what real power is in that division.
Now, is that common in other combat sports where like two fighters have two fights, both of the guys pull out at the last second? I mean, doesn't that make it hard on both of y'all to kind of game plan for each other?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for Larimore, he was planning on an MMA fight, so
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
a totally different thing for him. So yeah, it's definitely difficult. I think we were both, just happy to be able to still be able to compete.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it sucks. I mean, I've had that happen 2 or 3 times in my career. Where on fight week, I've had somebody pull out, and you sell tickets, you have people coming. I'm going to do anything I can to fight. Like, so then another
Yeah.
time that happened to me, I was supposed to fight at 140 pounds. My second pro fight, MMA, and on Tuesday of fight week, my opponent pulled out, and so I ended up fighting on Friday a 155er with 13 fights. But I just wasn't going to pull out of the fight. I had people coming to watch, and so that's just what you do.
So let's get into this last fight. So, I mean, you come off of two losses. How are you still so confident?
I mean, again, not to make excuses, but I know there are reasons behind those losses. I know what happened, and I know what I'm capable of. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I know I can beat any of these guys. So it's just I understand how it could be. For people on the outside looking in, it may seem like it's maybe a false confidence or something, but
Mhm.
um, you know, I was always meant to be here. It just took a long time to get here. It took me longer than normal, and that's kind of been the story of my life. Is I've never just picked up on things right away, but I'm persistent and I don't give up, and I'm going to be there till the end.
So, what was the specific weakness about Cole that you feel like you were going to be able to exploit?
Say it again. I'm sorry, you broke up at the
What
beginning.
was a what was an specific weakness about Cole that you feel like you were going to be able to exploit?
Um, Mostly just the my power, not necessarily a weakness of his, but I guess the weakness of his would be if we would have actually gotten into an actual fight. His striking is very wild, and he just kind of goes in there winging punches. And
Mm.
so, had he done that, had we gotten into any of those exchanges, he would have gone to sleep just as violently. Um, because of the power. I mean, if I can touch you, it's going to be you're going to be in trouble. The guys that are going to give me a difficult time are going to be guys who are fast and are going to be able to stay out of the pocket and avoid the shots. Cole's not really one of those guys. He was going to get into a firefight, and I knew that was going to be detrimental to him and anybody else that wants to get in there and get in a firefight with me as well.
So you knocked them out. They said 2.9 seconds. I think it's more like 2.5 seconds personally. Did you even think at that moment that you might have had the fastest knockout in combat sports history?
Yeah, obviously coming off 2 losses, I knew that I had to come in there and do something to prove that I belonged here. Just a win didn't necessarily ensure me another fight. I don't think.
Okay.
So I knew I had to do something emphatic, and that was the goal, was one shot off the line. Let's put this guy out. If that doesn't happen, then we're just going to make it a violent, brutal fight. But the plan was to go in there and catch him right off the line. And yeah, I mean, plan doesn't always work out, but this time it worked out perfectly.
So if you're Cole, right? Just let's step in Cole's shoes for a second because he's the guy that got knocked out. How should he feel as a fighter being on the receiving end of the fastest knockout in combat sports history?
I mean, I don't know. I guess it would probably be embarrassing, especially since he was a 12-1 favorite or something. But this is a fight game. Like, especially in bare knuckle, this is it's just a different sport.
Yeah.
Um, so this is a risky business.
Should he be discouraged at all? Should he be discouraged at all after this?
I mean, I don't necessarily think that he should be super discouraged, I guess. I mean, he should
Yeah.
definitely be discouraged a little bit, but I don't think that it should stop him from continuing, and I don't think it will. I think that he's a guy that will come back and keep moving forward, but um, hopefully he grows enough balls to ask for a rematch. Though it'd be fun to knock him out again.
Is it something though he like fighters should just chalk up though, cause like it's could be part of the game. I mean, a lot of people get knocked out, man, in a fight game.
hmm I mean,
So is it something they should just chalk it up and like just keep it moving?
yeah. If you're a fighter, I mean, if you're in your heart, you're actually a true fighter, then a loss is never gonna slow you down. Really, it's only gonna encourage you and make you want it more. So those type of bad losses, I think only will drive a true fighter even more to come back and bounce back off of that. I think Cole will do that.
Now, what does this record mean to you? I mean, like we might pass away like 30, 40 years from now and nobody might never break this record. What would that
Mm.
mean though for you?
Um, that's it would mean everything. Like I wanted to be remembered, and it's gonna be hard to forget me now. This is
Yeah.
only the beginning, though. Like this is step one. There's still a whole lot more fights out there, and a whole lot more, records and just amazing moments to come. I think I may beat this record, and if I don't, you're gonna see some some bloody, violent fights moving forward.
So you didn't get a hit once, you didn't get a scratch on you.
Mm-mm.
Now, how quick are you looking to fight again?
I was trying to fight in Hollywood a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I would jump in Philly in a week or two if they would let me. Um, Obviously, you've seen everybody saw that they announced Dubai and Italy.
Italy, yeah.
Would love to get on either one of those cards. But I want to get back in there as soon as possible, man. You know, I've been my whole life. I've been working construction and trying to train, and it's pretty tough working 60 hours a week, breaking your back, and then going in the gym and trying to go with these 20-year-olds who have been in school all day or whatever. So I want to get to the point where I don't have to work anymore full time like that to support to pay the bills and stuff. I'd love to be able to provide just from fighting. And so, right now I can't do that by any stretch of the imagination. So I would have to be fighting every month to even be close. So the more fights I can get right now until I can and start making some actual money, the better.
So, is it tough to make a living as a fighter?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's almost impossible. I mean, until you get to, a big name, unless you have some really good sponsors, there's
Yeah,
guys out
okay.
there that have sponsors that are give them monthly stipends and take care of them, and that always comes back around. But if you're just going off of purses, like fight purses, man, it's damn near impossible. You got guys in the UFC that are still working full time jobs, and I would say the majority of the BKFC roster, unless they're being carried by some sponsors, you just can't live off of the purse, and it's way better than anything else that you're going to get. I mean, as far as if I were to take a fight anywhere else, the money with BKFC's three times better, but that's still very very low in comparison to any other job, even. But for a sport, it's pretty rough.
Now, like, what's the process of like getting your next fight? Do you like stay trying to stay on them, letting them know, hey, I want to fight, or do you just let your peoples handle that?
I'm kind of just on my people to be on them. I try not um, to bother the staff that much. They got plenty going on, but I have a guy that I pay. He gets a percentage of my purse to make those fights happen. So I stay on him and make sure that he's put my name in there anytime that I see an opening. I'll say, hey, this person dropped out, throw my name in there. Or I saw this car got announced, put my name in there. And he puts me up. He's constantly telling them I'm ready to go anytime.
What about like the BKFC Mohegan Sun card? That almost seems like a really good card, February 1st,
Yeah,
that if you should try to get on.
yeah, 100%. I would be down. I told him right after the fight, like backstage, some of the staff came back and was talking to me afterwards, and I told him, if you need anybody, I told him in Hollywood 2 weeks from now, like whatever you need, I'm ready to go. Um, I would love to fight at 135, but if I got to go back up to 45, I mean, I can obviously finish anybody there too. So it's whatever comes, I'm ready.
So, I mean, you never ever try to like want to fight specific fighters? Like some people just like to call out fighters, or they just got a specific fighter in mind they really want to fight for some reason. You don't never have specific fighters?
Not particularly. I mean, I just want the best. So, like a lot of times when I hear guys calling out other guys, it's like they're calling out guys who are below them, calling out easy fights.
Mhm.
I'm definitely, you're definitely not going to hear that from me. If you hear me asking for somebody, it's going to be somebody who's on the verge of a title shot, or somebody with a big name, somebody who's coming over from the UFC. Other than that, I'm not interested in just some. I don't know. If you don't have a name, I'm not. I don't have a desire to call you out or anything. I'll fight anybody, but if somebody's got a name, any names in the division, that's the ones that you might hear me call for soon. But right now, I just need to get in there and fight and capitalize on the momentum that I've started and keep this train rolling.
Now, I interviewed CEO Greg Bloom of BYB, and I was asking him about North Carolina bare knuckle. He said it wasn't legal yet, and
Mhm.
they're trying to legalize it. Now, what would it mean for you to like be part of breaking it bare knuckle in North Carolina? And what would that fight card probably look like, you think?
That would be cool, man. I mean, this region, the southeastern region, has a ton of talent that, people are starting to see it now. There was a lot of it on the Atlanta card, a lot of Georgia talent. North
Yeah.
Carolina is stacked with, we've got some gyms in North Carolina that have got some real high level prospects, and then the surrounding states too. With Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia,
South
Alabama.
Carolina, yep.
So, you know, I think they could put on a massive card there. From what I understand, they're getting close. So hopefully within the next year, we'll be bringing something there, and I would say you can expect to see me on that card.
That sounds like a Tony Soto main main event fight all day long, North Carolina.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think we
Absolutely.
got what, Jay Jackson, if I'm not mistaken, is from North Carolina, and a couple other cats that are actually in
Hmm.
BKFC from North Carolina. I think that would make a really good card compared to some of these other states.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even though it's not North Carolina, but Keith Richardson's gym is
Keith,
in South
yeah,
Carolina, but
yeah,
it's
South
just
Carolina, yep.
it's not far though. I mean, it's just 30 minutes from Charlotte or 45 minutes from Charlotte or something. So, and they've got a handful of people. They got a lot of talent in that gym. Obviously, they've got probably at least I can think offhand at least four fighters in the UFC. I mean, in the BKFC at Modern Warrior alone. So, then plus Tony Soto, myself, and there's some other guys around too.
Now, how big do you think BKFC could possibly get? I've interviewed people and they said they think it could be as big as the UFC, but like the UFC of bare knuckle.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Do
agree
you
with that. I think we're already number two in combat sports. Period. If you, I don't know who, especially entertainment value. I don't know another organization that can really compete with BKFC other than maybe one championship. I think maybe one and BKFC are probably uh, two and three. 2A and 2B um, behind the UFC right now. So yeah, I think BKFC is on its way to being maybe overtaking the UFC one of these days.
now you originally want to fight, you said 135?
Yeah.
So that's bantamweight, correct?
Yes, sir.
So what weight class? I mean, that's a tough weight class right there. You got
Yeah.
Keith, you got Blas, you got Justin, Reber, Chris Garcia. Do you ever like as far as getting the belt, do you ever go and try to analyze what weight class do I have a better chance in?
Um, I don't know, man. I mean, 35 and 45 are both so
Close.
insanely talented. They're like
Yeah, they are.
both of those weight classes. Just to break into the top five is going to be, um, a fucking mountain to climb. Um, so I think I've got my work cut out for me. Either place I go, whether it be 35 or 45. I think I can potentially go to 25 if I wanted to. It would have to, I'd have to put in a little bit of work, but 25 is not out of reach by any means. Um, but yeah, I think 35, just body type, body size is probably my best fit. Is at 35. I think I'm probably my fastest, strongest, and in best shape at 135.
Do you think like bare knuckles always gonna be have a easy process of getting talent with all these UFC fighters and MMA fighters coming to bare knuckle? Because it seems like it creates a second shelf life for fighters who might be uh I guess washed up in boxing or washed up in MMA, then they could come over to bare knuckle like Mike Perry and go
Mhm.
like 5-0, 6-0. You see, we see a lot of that like always going forward.
No, I think that'll kind of go away as the sport grows and the money comes into it a little bit more. You start seeing these
Mhm.
kids like you talked about Ibarola, for instance.
Yeah.
These young guys who are really starting out in BKFC. Um, you don't want to see you know like think about, for instance, Jimmy Rivera and Kai Stewart.
Yeah, yeah.
Jimmy's a legend, in my eyes, in the UFC, and Kai is a homegrown, pretty much BKFC guy,
Yep.
and Kai dominated that fight, and he's young, and that makes a huge difference. Like age is a huge factor in the sport for sure. Um, and as you start getting these younger guys in, the speed and the timing and all that stuff, just just a little bit faster makes the world of difference.
You think some of these guys that come from the other combat sports might not necessarily know exactly what they're getting themselves into?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the brutality of it, if you're not used to seeing your own blood a lot, you see guys like obviously in MMA who have wars, and you got the Robbie Lawlers and Rory McDonald fights. They're just bloodbaths. But for the most part, this is a much more brutal. I wouldn't say brutal necessarily, but more bloody, more graphic sport. So um, it can definitely turn off a lot of people from wanting to get in there and get busted up like that. Especially I think especially boxers. There's some boxers that have come over and are doing decent, like Austin Trout, but um,
Yeah, yeah.
like if you're used to getting hit with a 12-ounce glove, 10, 12-ounce glove, that's a whole different world than getting hit with bare knuckles. And it's just a different feeling. Everything about it's just different.
How important is legacy to you?
Very, man. Like I have a child. That's I want her to be able to look back and say, "Oh yeah, that's my dad." That's one of the coolest parts about setting this record is her friends coming up to her and being like, "Oh, look what I found on my you know Instagram page. It popped
That's
up on my
what's up.
Instagram page. This is your dad." And so that's really cool. Just leaving something behind for her to be like, this is what I came from. That's very important to me.
Now, I guess we both agreed that between you and Ruben was knockout of the year. Who do you feel like had the fight of the year?
I gotta go with Soto and Tenaglia, however you say his name. That was a war, man. I think
Yeah.
Soto should have got his hand raised, but God, man, that was just a war.
Yeah, Chris Lytle, in the middle of the fight said it reminded him of Rocky too, and I was sitting there thinking exactly that when I saw it, because like right when they got to the fourth round, they were throwing punches, but there was not enough power behind any of those punches to knock
Yeah.
each other down. It was crazy, man, and they were just throwing them to the very last
Mm.
second, man, and just you could see they were just. I never seen some guys get so exhausted. That's another thing. It seems like a lot of these fighters get in here, and I think they be thinking they're gonna get it over quick. And once you get past that first round, it seems like cardio really plays a major factor in this.
Yeah, that's where you'll see, MMA fighters and wrestlers have a huge advantage here over guys who, or MMA veterans, guys who have been around
Mhm.
for a long time and have good records, who have been in these long fights. It's gonna really stand out as far as the cardio goes. Like we've all been in fist fights before, and how everybody knows it's exhausting to get in a fight and go try to fight somebody, but if you see a fist fight in the streets and it lasts for 1 minute, that's a pretty long fight. That's half of a round. So you get 10 times that. What typically a normal person thinks of as like, damn, I just fought for a whole minute. Like you know that's a lot less than this. So um, cardio is I think it's a very underappreciated aspect for just your casual fans, people who don't really know all the aspects of the sport. But cardio is a major
Mhm.
factor. That's one of the big things that Kai Stewart has going for him is the kid's got cardio for days, and if you can't finish him, which nobody, it doesn't look like they can, if you're not going to be able to finish him, you're not going to be able to keep that pace with him the whole time either. So um, the cardio here is going to be a major factor. And again, like you say, with Soto and Teneglia, once you get into those later rounds and you're just throwing arm punches and you're giving it everything you got, but it's not enough to do anything, where, that cardio is on point and your opponent's is not, you're throwing bombs still in the fourth and fifth round and they're just winging arm punches. It's going to make a huge difference.
That's crazy. Yeah. So you did you go viral? I mean, you went viral off of this, right? This knockout.
Yeah. Yeah.
You weren't able to like figure out like how many total views you got or whatnot off of it.
Well over 50 million.
Well over 50 million. Wow. And what kind of like feedback were you getting?
I mean, pretty much all positive. You're always going to get some negative comments, but 99.99% was positive stuff. People understand that part of my story is persistence and not giving up. And um, there's a million people out here who have been in this sport and been in these type of situations and things not going their way, once or twice, and then they say I'm done. I'm not cut out for it or whatever. And everybody sees that I'm not that guy. No matter how many times I get knocked down, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna go again. This is what I want to do. This is what I love to do, and I'm willing to die for it. And when people see that finally come out and pay off, people love it. People love to see that. Um, a guy who people counted out being on top is a special thing. And there's something poetic about, kind of like what Jelly Roll said. There's something poetic about the fastest knockout in combat sports history being set by a 37-year-old man getting his first win. Persistence and not giving up is what made that happen. And I could be, you know, sitting on the couch watching these fights, but instead I'm there doing it. So,
S- s-
I think a lot of people have taken a lot of inspiration from it.
Wait, so Jelly Roll said that about your fight?
No, he got nominated for New Artist of the Year or something like that, or
Oh,
Breakout
okay.
Artist of the Year or something. He said, there's something poetic about a 38-year-old man up here winning, New Artist of the Year or whatever. But kind of the same thing, like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is. I feel like I just stole a young man's record. This is something that um, you don't expect to see it from a 135 pounder. You definitely don't expect to see it from an old man.
Yeah, and I noticed like it seems like the lower weight classes they kind of get overlooked on this pound for pound, man. Like what's that about? Do you know?
Uh, I think in BKFC especially, the sport's about knockouts. It's about the violent finishes, and for the most part, you just don't see that in these smaller weight classes. There's not a ton of guys in the smaller weight classes that are really putting guys lights out. You see a lot of TKOs, a lot of standing stoppages, stuff like that, but you don't see people getting there's. I can't think of anybody offhand at 135 pounds that I can say, oh yeah, that guy's got one punch stopping power. But I do, and so that I think that's going to set me apart.
I never thought about that because, like, you get into the men's flyweights. I don't know any of those flyweight guys that are really knocking each other out. They usually go like
Hmm.
4 or 5 rounds. Even the Bantams, there's a lot of longer rounds with those
Hmm.
Bantam weights. So that makes a lot of sense. But I didn't know it was just based off of like knockout power and whatnot.
That's what I would. That's what my opinion would probably be. I have no idea why it is, but my guess would probably be something like that. It's you got a guy like what's his name, the Cuban Mike Tyson, Perdomo.
Oh,
You got
Perdomo, I
you got a
love
guy,
him. I
yeah,
love him.
you got a guy like Perdomo who's knocking dudes out in the first round every time. That's a whole lot more entertaining than a guy like Ibarola who doesn't really finish that many people. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Ibarola is a fantastic fighter and an amazing athlete, but it's not going to get as many eyeballs when you're fighting guys who are have upside down records, and you know you're you're not getting 100% finish rates. It's just not the same as guys who are knocking dudes dead every time.
Yeah, because Ibarola's last fight before Perez, I mean, he was dancing around the ring most of the time, just avoiding getting
Hmm.
hit. And then Perez, I mean, he did make Perez quit, and I was shocked that he made Perez quit. And that's another thing. Like, I don't be wanting to interview any fighters that quit. Do you lose
Hmm.
respect for a fighter when they quit?
Yeah, for sure. In that way, I mean, there's a lot of the people have said that I've quit before. Like when I took a knee, but that's not what happened in that fight. But when you literally just turn around and say, "I'm done. I don't want to
Yeah,
do
they
this
be right.
anymore."
They be doing
That's a
this. I'm
different.
like,
Yeah.
done. Yeah.
Now, why are you here? What did you come here for?
That's why I had
Doesn't
a,
make sense.
a issue with the female rankings. They only had 3 people on it, but they had Taylor Starling on there, and I'm like, man, Christine Ferreira made her quit like early. She went
Yeah.
like that, like, and then
Yeah.
I guess they didn't call it, and then so she's like, damn, I gotta go out here fight. But she was just ready to get it over with, and I just like, damn. I mean, like you said, what are you here for if you're gonna quit? I mean, Ryan
Yeah.
Reber fought Perez. One of my favorite, Ryan Reber. He fought Perez, got his ass kicked for 3 straight rounds, and then won the last 2 rounds and won the match.
Hmm.
I mean, that's what I want to see if it's gonna go some rounds. I want to see a warrior. I want to see somebody fight to last minute. If a
Yeah. That
doctor
definitely.
calls it, that's cool. You can't
Hmm.
say they quit. But
Yeah, for Perez, I mean, that definitely wasn't the fight that I expected from Perez. But again, I mean, Justin was tagging him up. Like it
yeah,
wasn't like a competitive fight. Justin was piecing him up, and Perez wasn't going to come back. But I don't know. It's just soft to quit like that.
all right. Well, I'm about to wrap it up. We about to be hitting a 50-minute mark here soon. You got any shout outs you want to do before we go?
Man, just shout out to all my team. My sponsors, Tennessee Hemp Care. Has been my main sponsor for my last, probably 5 or 6 fights. I wouldn't be able to do it without those guys. Let's see, Hat Creek Customs, Loudon Creek or Loudon County Bales Bonds, Freckle Love, Bentley the Voorhees, Docs Electric. Without sponsors, man, this isn't possible. So definitely big shout out to them. And shout out to all the fans, for pushing the sport and making it grow. Without people watching, I wouldn't have a platform to do this on.
I appreciate you taking time out, man. I know we had to reschedule and whatnot, but last link didn't work too well, but this one seemed like it worked pretty lot smoother. Anytime you want to come back on, please do. As soon as I get off here, I'm gonna start clipping up some clips, get some clips out there, and start uploading to Rumble and YouTube and all the platforms and whatnot. But definitely gonna support everything you do. You know what I'm saying? Anything you post, make sure I like, comment, all that good stuff. Keep watching, and I wish you nothing but the best, man, in the future, man.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you. Anytime you need me, holler at me. I'll be here.
All right, enjoy the rest of your day, man.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
All right, peace. Well, there you have it. Justin Watson got the fastest knockout in combat sports history. They said it was 2.9. It looked more like 2.4, 2.5. And literally, is going to go down in history. I mean, regardless if that record gets broke by somebody, he's gonna go down in history because I mean it's in the history books right now as the fastest in all of combat sports history. I could literally, I'm 45, man. I could die 40, 50 years later, and that record could still be standing, man. It still could be standing to the test of time. And he definitely got his first win on that one. And we wish him all the best. And hopefully he'll have a new fight coming up soon in the BKFC. I mean, we got so many events coming up. Let's see all the events we got coming up. I mean, January 18th, you got Pachanga BKFC Fight Night. Got Philadelphia January 25th. I mean, those are literally a week apart. February 1st, Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. You got another show, United Kingdom. They just announced Dublin, Italy, and I'm pretty sure they'll be doing another Hollywood, Florida, probably in like March or April, man, because they be milking the hell out of the Hollywood, Florida, man, which I don't blame them. If it's selling out every time, man, you got to milk it. Hard Rock Seminole Cafe in Hollywood, Florida, definitely a nice, beautiful spot, man, shaped like a guitar. So, yeah, man, and I agree with him, man. Like he probably between him and Ruben Ware, that was like knockout of the year, man. But I had to go with Ruben because Ruben knocked his guy out cold. I mean, he was just laying there for a hot minute. But Justin, man, I mean, he knocked this guy out. He went face first, flat on the canvas, and his whole body just rolled over, man. And that was a wrap. That was all she wrote, man. Well, appreciate y'all tuning in for another episode. And we about to hit you with this outro and peace. And I'm out.